Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Francis Dunnery Astrology. Please press the subscribe button, like right now. Go and press it. You'll have fun doing it. It's going to be the most fun you've ever had in your life. Press that subscribe button. Today we're going to be talking about Saturn in Pisces, and it's the last of our series of the Saturn series, running from your own salvation. You can usually find your average Piscean not really here on the Earth. You know, the Pisceans are just off somewhere else. They're slightly off to the left somewhere. And it's to do with their boundaries. They don't have a lot of boundaries. They're quite porous, Pisceans. And so they can absorb a lot of stuff. And that's why people say they're psychic and stuff like that. They can feel things that's coming in from all over the place that a lot of other people can't. They don't have much of a shell. You know what I mean? They're kind of open to what's coming in. Like it's like, imagine if you had like radio frequencies coming in, and most people have like some sort of barrier. The Pisceans kind of, let things in. So they oftentimes they, you can find them trying to help others because of their compassion. They have they can feel people's needs. Like they're very empathetic and very compassionate. You can feel that, almost like the healers, or even you get what I call the fairy and the pixie Pisces, where they're talking to plants and their connection with animals. It's always a connection outside of the ego. So, and that's what I mean by they're not really here. They're kind of, they're elsewhere. And oftentimes that spiritual urge, that religious urge that all humans have is very pronounced with Pisceans. And so you often find, them in things like animal shelters, or you might find them in hospitals or charities and places like that, helping out or, donating their time. Almost like trying to heal. There's a certain healing element about them. Like, they're trying to help. Like you find Pisceans will help. Trying to they're trying to dissolve their boundaries. That's really what they're doing at the bottom line. They're trying to dissolve their boundaries in the sense that, that shell that we have around us, they're trying to get rid of it so they can become part of the oneness of life. It's quite a complex sign, Pisces. And the 12th house actually is a very complex thing because we don't really, people in the textbook astrology books, they say things like, the unknown, or, they have all these nondescript things about Pisces that you can't really get a hold of. And it's kind of true because it's hard to describe that world. It's hard to describe that world where, that's not just the ego or not just society. And so it's beyond the ego. Let's put it down into that. And so the Pisceans run beyond the ego. When you put Saturn in that position, then you have a problem because the victim and the healer, that duality, the Pisceans would tend to gravitate towards the victim at that point. And, they say the 12th house is about institutions and, mental institutions and all these sort of things like that. Sure, that's kind of true in itself, but it's not the heart of the matter. The heart of the matter is the need to dissolve the boundaries. And when there's two ways to do that. If you see the night people, the people like, the heroin addicts, and they're trying to escape the alcoholics, they're trying to escape the earth, trying to escape the ego. And they do it, like the ego is such a hard shell. And when you're cut off from everybody else like that, that's what an ego is. It's like a little egg that you go into with yourself, and you're cut off from everyone else. You won't let anyone in. And so, you stand there criticizing everybody. They're this and they're that and they're this. But when you have a few drinks, it's like, oh, hey, you can have mine, have some of mine. That need to melt away their ego can come in two forms. It can come through either helping the world or being a victim of the world. Because that's what alcoholics are doing. That's what drug addicts are doing. That's what the suffering people, the people who suffer. There's something suffering about Saturn in Pisces. They tend to put themselves through suffering in order to dissolve their ego. And of course it's the most painful way to go about it, because they could just go to church. It's the same thing. Like going to church is the same as drinking alcohol. It dissolves the boundaries, and one does it, through alcohol. One does it, metaphorically through symbolism, through church or prayer or anywhere where you're making a connection outside of your ego. But when Saturn's in Pisces, then this person becomes a victim. And the victim can be anything from like somebody who just is unconsciously addicted to melancholy and self-pity. And somebody who just seems to just gravitate towards a hard life, like those sort of like, you know, those sort of event, like that sort of, you know, harsh event, and they no matter what they do, they don't seem to be able to get on their feet at all. And that's because unconsciously they're not trying to get on their feet. They're trying to suffer. There's something profound. It's almost like the religious urge, the need to dissolve the boundaries comes through suffering as opposed through helping other people. And so this is what causes the suffering of the Saturn in Pisces people. They're desperate to dissolve their boundaries, and they've become victims instead of healers, because they're actually healers. You know, on the plus side, and once they begin to understand what that is, they begin to turn towards the healer polarity of Saturn in Pisces, which is, you know, you find doctors, you know, it's all the people who help, like charity leaders, people who set up charities. These are Saturn in Pisces people who, you know, work as taking care of, you know, autistic children and things like this. That's that urge. But you can either be the healer or the victim with Saturn in Pisces. Most of the time you're going to end up in some form being the victim, because that's just how that's just how it rolls. And then hopefully you'll realize what it is, realize you're being a victim, and begin to take on the other polarity, which is to help others, because that's really the goal of Saturn in Pisces, is to help other people, is to be a healer of other people, either through a doctor, either through helping, just knowing what people need, for their like just intuitively knowing what people need in order to help them. And that's the upside of Saturn in Pisces, is to be like that. And so that's our little talk for today. You can either be the healer or the victim with Saturn in Pisces. You probably do both at some point. If you have Saturn in Pisces or Saturn in the 12th house, it's the same thing. But the upside of it, to be the healer of it, is profoundly positive. It's an unbelievably positive thing. And as soon as you find this out, what I'm talking to you about now, then it becomes your best friend, as all Saturnian things do. The beast kidnaps the beauty till she learns to love him for who he is, and then he turns into a handsome prince. And so the handsome prince of Saturn in Pisces is a healer. Is somebody who helps, is somebody who contributes positively to those who are suffering. And you're no longer the victim. You become the healer of the suffering. The healer of the suffering. All right, and that's our little conversation for today. I hope you've had fun, and I hope you press that subscribe button, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. And have a great day, and thank you very much for tuning in. Bye.